Welcome back. We continue our one-on-one interviews with the candidates, and we have today the Attorney General candidate and former Attorney General, Attorney Doug Moylan. Thanks for joining us, Doug.
Howdy, Nestor.
First of all, tell us a little bit about your background, your work experience.
Well, I'm 56 years old. My parents are Richard and my mother passed away, Jane Moylan. I have 3 children. I went to law school, graduated in about 1991. Undergrad was University of Notre Dame, high school was Father Duenas, and law school was Santa Clara University. Practiced in the Superior Court of Guam as a staff attorney, did a little bit of time as the small claims referee for a bit. Then I went over to the Guam legislature as the legislative counsel for the 24th, 25th, and 26th Guam legislatures. And after that, I was honored by the people to be the first elected Attorney General because they made the position elected. That service was from 2003 to 2007. After that, I've been in private practice, handled many different cases throughout the local court and the federal court, as well as the, we've gone to the U.S. Supreme Court. When I was with the AG's office, we were able to get a case heard by them. So we're up until now, I'm running for the Attorney General. I'm hoping that the people see a need, that somebody needs to fix the crime problem. That's what I believe the community is seeing as a problem.
Yeah. As you mentioned, you are the former Attorney General of Guam. Tell us more specifically why you're running this time.
Because I believe that Guam has a crime problem. I've been a victim of crime, as well. I think most people that I've talked to during this campaign season, I believe that I have the most to offer for the candidates. I also believe that there's a distinction between what each candidate is offering the voter, and in terms of the perceived problem of crime, I think that I have the most to offer in order to effectively fight crime and push back against the criminals. When I served as the Attorney General, that was a big part of our administration. There was no crime wave. There was no drug wave that we're having here, the meth and ice addiction that's going on right now. And when you get that into the community, all aspects of the community start to deteriorate. So I think that I have something to offer the people, unlike the other 2 candidates.
Yeah, you mentioned the ICE crisis that we're in now. Yes. Dates back 30 years.
Right.
I can remember reporting about that back in the 1990s. How would you, as Attorney General this time, address the ICE crisis? Well,
we don't have the level that we had before. As you know, the presidents have often gone their war on crime and so forth. It's throughout the nation. But now we've seen literally a breakdown of our society when the children can't even go to school because their parents are meth addicted. It's at a level now that is unlike ever before. I think we're seeing in the States, but more so on Guam, whether it's going to be ice, fentanyl, or a lot of these other substances that are out there. So we didn't have that problem when I was there. We were fighting it, but not at the level now. You can see the prices have dropped from about $300 now to about $100. And PDN even reported you can pick it up for $10 per gram, depending upon the quality of the drug. And it's a drug that just completely destroys the individual. Teeth start falling out, behaviors change, significant behavioral changes, organs will start to fail. It usually ends in death. I'm a private practitioner in the Superior Court system for indigent appointments, and probably in the past 2 to 3 years, 3 or 4 of my court-appointed clients have died because of ICE. Yeah. And these are young, vital neighbors that we have in our community, and it's terrible. It really eats at every part of your humanity.
So if your candidacy is successful, how would you attack this issue?
Well, first is starting to work more closely with the Guam Police Department and Customs. Obviously, you have the entry of drugs into Guam, and that's why the price has gone down. It's either an increase in drugs and or users. The dog detection resource, I think, needs to be actually turned into a division at GPD with dozens of dogs, because I think that is the most effective and judicially accepted form of going into a person's Fourth Amendment right of privacy. That's just one aspect. You also need more cops on the beat. You need police officers actually walking the streets, getting that same connection that we used to remember when I was younger, that you knew the officers' names, that they're walking whether it's going to be the villages or the schools, malls, stores, you name it. Motorcycle police officers, putting them on motorcycles. When they put their police reports together, we know where the crimes are occurring on Guam. And when I say crimes, they can be nonviolent, but normally they're being found with drugs. That's why I say drugs is just, It's a virus that's spread into every aspect of our community, our lives, and first line of defense has got to always be the Guam Police Department and Customs for the detection, how it's getting into Guam. Also, these boats that are going out on fishing trips, they need to be checked when they're coming back in. We need to better patrol our harbors, in addition to all this immigrant invasion that we're getting, the people that are coming over the reefs and things. But I don't think that they're checking those boats as good as they should. The post office is doing a crackdown. I know that Customs, they go through the containers and things like that. But another aspect is they could be picking it up off of the shores of Guam. And then to the prosecution. We get a team of prosecutors that believe in their attorney general as a chief law enforcement officer and not a chief social worker, a therapist, or a rehabilitator. And we take these people into court before the juries, the judges, and we let the law be applied. Because the AG doesn't change the law or affect the law. The laws are passed by the legislature. Meth is a felony, has consequences. Now they have the adult drug court, but the success rate is, the failure rate is much greater than the success rate, which is 55%. I don't know about anything recently that they've shown, but having practiced in the Superior Court of Guam, it's higher than 55%, in my opinion. People that go into the system for a therapeutic approach and end up failing the system, which is the adult drug court, and testing positive, and then ending up committing another crime. So the AG's office has a role, and my vision of the role is to be the toughest AG on crime, to let the public, the criminals out there know that if you get caught, there are going to be harsh consequences for you. We're not going to hold your hand. We're not going to catch you, release you, and allow you to hurt other people in our community. We're going to lock you up with the help of the courts. And I say this with such respect to the courts because I don't believe the current AG has given the proper legal briefing to the judges with the consequences and the victims, basically saying, I am a victim and I want you to lock this person up and protect me. The four aspects of criminal justice system is to protect the crime victim, to punish the defendant, and to deter crime, and to rehabilitate. Those are the four main purposes of the criminal justice system. I believe our Attorney General is focusing too much on rehabilitation. I'm focusing on the deterrence, which comes from the prosecuting and protecting the crime victim.
Well, what is your position on rehabilitation? Because we do have the Department of Corrections. It's not the Department or the Bureau of Prisons. What is your stance on rehabilitation, particularly in drug cases?
Like I mentioned, the legislature has spoken and says that for nonviolent type of drug offenses, meth, whatever, they'll give them a chance to go through what they call the adult drug court program. If you fail out of the drug court program, you're going back into the system and be prosecuted. Okay, that's for violent meth type of or drug type of offenses. You get tried as anyone else. The Department of Corrections is just the end result. The Attorney General is not the warden at the Department of Corrections. His concern is not whether or not they have enough room there. That is the governor's role, as well as public health and Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. Their roles are to look towards the treatment aspects. The Attorney General has no business trying to hold the meth addict's hand. The Attorney General is charged with enforcing the laws and protecting the public. I see that as the primary duty of this next Attorney General. Because it's been so bad the past 4 years, it's shifted, and now we're in a triage situation. People need protection. Every night that the sun goes down, crime victims are being created. You see it every day when you look at the news, whether it's a murder, rape, robbery. When you're addicted, you go after property, and then the behavioral aspects, the changes where you're beating up your wife for no reason, or the two most shocking ones recently, the meth addict was trying to have the wife take the drugs, forcing it upon her, which is some sort of behavioral mania that must have been going on in that individual's head, if it was true, as well as the child, the 10-year-old boy that was being forced marijuana, I believe, by the meth addict father. That's the part of that family court that we don't see in the public because they're quote-unquote private proceedings. And the only times you normally see something is if they charge the meth addict with a child abuse type of situation. But other than that, the pictures that you would cry and be shocked by seeing what Guam Police Department and Child Protective Services is seeing of the children of meth-addicted parents. And there are a lot of them. Our families know about it, they see it, our teachers see it when the kids are coming to school with lice in their hair, not eating, emaciated, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So I think that there's it's gotten to a point that you need a different approach. And quite frankly, I think that everybody realizes the biggest problem on Guam is crime. You've got the governors talking about it, and you've got the senators also talking about crime. But the office that is tasked literally with being the chief law enforcement officer in control of the Guam Police Department and Customs, where all their police reports go up to, is the Attorney General. It's the position that I feel can do the most good for Guam. I believe that I have what it takes in order to get us out of this, this hole that's been dug for us.
You mentioned it, and unfortunately, it's one of the other more common criminal offenses that we see, and that's domestic violence and family
Yes.
violence. And how would you attack that as Attorney General?
Well, that issue is often, it's a bit on the complicated side because it could be some problems between the two. But in the past, you've seen alcohol abuse, and obviously whether it's affecting the wife, the spouse, or the children, when it gets to the level of a family violence, the police get involved, the government has to get involved. Meth, again, is the interdiction, the protecting the spouse against the other spouse and the children against the parent or parents. And again, I'm seeing both parents. It's not just one parent and then the other one is the victim. Both parents are getting addicted to ice. It is highly addictive, and it destroys, as I said, every aspect of the person and everyone around them. You know, our neighbors, and I have relatives, friends, people I know, as well as professionally clients that are meth addicted. And I think anyone that's experienced a meth addicted family member knows. Family violence, that's just the outshoot. But what is the core problem? And again, it's the substance abuse. And before it was often alcohol. Now it's actual meth. We're also seeing the domestic violence going on in our Micronesian community friends. The Micronesians normally were just mainly alcohol abuse. That's when the police would normally have to deal with whatever's going on, public intoxication, you name it. Now they're finding that probably because the prices dropped so low, because they're usually not as well off as other people in our community because they're immigrants and so forth. But they can now afford meth. It's available to them. They're being arrested for meth and in schools. I'm beginning to see it. Again, I practiced before Judge Ingalls in the family court, beginning to see it in teenagers. Meth in kids that are going to school. Well, there's marijuana already in the schools. But I mean the idea that meth is actually showing its face. So whoever's distributing it, either through price reduction or, the meth dealer's objective is to create a customer. And creating the customers, you get them hooked, you give them the samples, and again, because it's so highly addictive, they've got a customer until that person dies. Or the government, AG's office, police, interdict and get a hold of what's going on.
Yeah, you mentioned our community members from the FAS, and it's true that, and this is not an indictment of that community, but it's true that there is a disproportionate number of those citizens within the prison system.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I believe in the U.S. Constitution. I believe in our American rights. I believe in good family conservative values. That comes from citizenship. When you're a citizen, you're given all these rights pursuant to the Constitution, as we all know, the Bill of Rights. When you're a visitor to Guam, as an immigrant, a non-U.S. citizen, it is my personal belief, and if elected as the Attorney General, I will implement that legal policy that once they violate our laws, they are no longer our guests here. They are already a burden upon us in our tax systems and so forth, obviously through the federal government's hand, and then they obviously try to offset some of the costs, but the social costs that are going on are there. But if they step over the line, cross the line by not following laws that we all have to abide by, then they should be sent home back to their respective country. And that's how I will approach the problem. And I will use creative ways, along with the lawyers that I will be having under the AG's office, to find different ways to have them deported, either voluntarily or working with the Homeland Security. There are statutes that allow Homeland Security to deputize local attorneys general. They've been doing it in Florida and Alabama and a few other states, California. I expect to use that in order to protect our community. And ultimately, the most important job of any attorney general, in addition to all the civil and child support and consumer protection matters, is to protect every citizen on our island, and even non-citizens. Yeah. But citizens are deserving of the most services from our government.
Yeah, and just to be crystal clear, when I say a disproportionate amount in the prison system, that is still a very, very, very tiny percentage of the entire population of FAS migrants, and I just wanted to make that clear.
Yes.
Okay. Just moving on. What are your thoughts on recidivism? Because we do see from the magistrate's complaint that are sent to us that a person, and let me use domestic violence as an example. A person, the magistrate's complaint also shows that that person, in many cases, probably the majority of cases, has a previous conviction of the same type and the same victim. So how do we address that?
Okay, first of all, if I became the Attorney General, we call it the rap sheet among the lawyers and the discovery information that's given. When the case is first sent over to the AG's office, again by our Guam Police Department normally, a special analysis is going to start if I get in, and that's going to be according to their rap sheet. They normally don't put that. The Attorney General normally just files a magistrate complaint, which is the charges and then a short history of what's gone on. What's going to happen if I get in is we're going to put the rap sheet and we're going to make a statement to the judge, release it to the medias, because the public needs to see these individuals, not just the magistrate complaint where you're kind of like getting a gleaning, this person did that, did what. The only ones that are seeing this prior rap sheet is the judge, and the magistrate gets a special summary report, very, very summary, from their computer system and their clerks. But the AG's office has all of that before we actually file it, because the AG's office would be the one that would file it. A special statement will be put in there as to whether or not the AG believes this person should be released. Two standards for release: danger to the community and appearance, the probability of coming to the next hearing, the ability to appear. The danger to the community is affected by the person's priors, like you're mentioning. If this person is in and out of our court system, there is a danger that this person is going to commit a crime again, the recidivism that you're talking about. That argument has to be presented to the magistrate judge to let the judge know that this Attorney General wishes, on behalf of the people of Guam, that is the client of any Attorney General, is you and everyone else out there, that we believe this person should not be released pending trial. Yes, he is innocent until proven guilty, but the standard that everybody uses is a reason to believe that this person committed the crime, but pending the actual trial, will this person, if released, be a danger to the community? And in situations that you're referencing, yes, they would be, in many cases. And I think that has to be highlighted for the judges more. And the argument made. They're not doing it right now. It's just basically, Your Honor, we think a performance bond, $5,000, whatever the bail would be. So I think that will change if I get in. So.
You mentioned the Chinese immigrants that are coming in, the back door, if you will, from the CNMI. It appears to be a very organized thing.
Very organized.
They used to come in from the North Recidian, and now they're going
choosing
around
their places.
to Pago Bay. So it appears to be very organized. And essentially, the federal government has washed his hands of this. The governor has created a task force to address it. What are your thoughts on how we can address this problem?
Okay. The first problem is that the law enforcement isn't being coordinated properly. Our local law enforcement is controlled by the Attorney General and the governor in her role as over these executive branch agencies, but the Attorney General is the one that directs the tenure, the momentum, and the priorities of the ongoings on Guam, the things that are happening on Guam. I would sit down with the governor to ask the governor to activate the National Guard. You need to have better detection that's going on. As you said, our own villagers, fishermen that are fishing late at night are seeing these guys come in. Where's the law enforcement? I think it was mentioned one time, there are certain points that you can actually see the Spanish. They had their points where they would see any ships around Guam. Well, the military, through the National Guard, is controlled by the governor. She can order the National Guard to start using that beautiful, expensive equipment that we pay for in our taxes. The helicopters, I understand that we may now have helicopters under the control of the National Guard. Put them out there. Military loves to do exercises because it keeps them in a state of readiness. That would be the first thing, detection. And then once we get them, take them into the court system and don't use the foolishness that this AG is doing. Why do you even charge them if you're going to release them the same day? That goes back to that unvetting of a person's rap sheet, his priors. We know nothing about these people. They could be murderers, they could be rapists, they could be robbers, thieves, you name it. So why are we releasing them with no record on who they are? So that on itself, the danger to the community, the likelihood of danger to the community is high. The court system, once they charge them with these kind of low-grade misdemeanors, should be to keep them in. Also, their flight risk. The fact they came into Guam shows they have no regard for the law. They will leave like they left Saipan, supposedly that's where they're coming from. So, and then working to actually get them deported. And by the way, send them back to Saipan or the closest sanctuary city. The Democrats, in the National Democrats, they pride themselves on certain cities saying that we welcome immigrants, we'd love to have you here. I think San Francisco is one of them. If we can get them in San Francisco, send them there. If we cannot deal with the local Homeland Security to take hold of them.
Criminal prosecution, of course, gets all the headlines, all the news stories, but as you know, as a former Attorney General, there are several other divisions within that office. Can you talk about civil and other,
Sure.
and what you would do? Is there a need to shore those up, or how would you approach that?
Well, the Attorney General, by definition, is a manager. He has to manage all divisions. We had 5 divisions that I was there. They shut down one of them after I left. When I was there, and what is essentially all the functions of the AG's office is general crimes. I created the government corruption division. There's the civil division, which provides legal advice to all the government agencies, deals with lawsuits against the taxpayers, the government of Guam, so to speak. The child support enforcement division, very important for many of our lives. And then the consumer protection division. So there's really 5 divisions, and the consumer protection is by law, it must be, the AG must have a consumer protection division. The AG also administers the notary on Guam, licenses the notaries, administers the tests and so forth. But I see a lot of capability with the consumer protection division, especially in the gas industry. These gas companies, the oligopoly that we have on Guam with maybe 3 or 4 of them. I say, government of Guam, legislature, governor, AG, get together and let's start providing fuel, selling fuel to the public at cost. Once you do that, the other gas companies can be kept honest. And I'm not saying go into the full-blown industry, but we used to do that at DPW. We had our own fuel tanks there. You've got the Guam Power Authority that manages fuel. You put together a special group within this government that can actually sell to the consumer fuel at cost, cover whatever cost would be involved in it. That price might keep those other gas companies, and I don't want to say they're profiteering or not, but it'll keep them honest, so to speak, for the consumer's benefit. Everything is going up, and from what I'm hearing in the United States, gas prices within the next 30 days are going to start shooting through the roof again. It's stopped its downward trend because of the way our president has been handling the whole energy for the United States. And it's going to start shooting it. And he's depleting our national reserves right now, which is supposed to be for military emergencies. So the AG has many civil responsibilities that can benefit the taxpayers, and that's how I'm going to direct that AG's office. We're not going to be bureaucracy.
Real quickly, talk about staffing. Is there a need for additional staffing, and where?
When I was the Attorney General, we had a $5 million budget. They now have $10 million more. They have about a $15 million budget. This AG even added $1 million to the most recent budget that was passed within the past 30 days. They have about 100 more people than I had. We had about maybe 30 some attorneys. This AG has, I believe, about 55 attorneys. There is much more capability that I see in that office. I see a lot of inefficiency. You see this AG bragging about how I'm bringing so much money into the office and this and that. Well, the output of your office is what defines you as an Attorney General. Do the people feel safe at night? And I would submit that people don't feel safe at night. That is the most important duty of the Attorney General. What have you been doing for the consumer protection effort out there? Have you been bringing in the gas companies, asking to see their profit margins, what their costs, and whether or not our consumers are being price gouged because of that? Is there a monopoly going on? You don't see that happening in the AG's office. You see a lot of bureaucracy, and that's why I use bureaucracy in a bad way. When you have too much bureaucracy, you put money in and nothing comes out. Typical bad government that happens. I'm not like that. We always came in under budget, and we had lapses. In the 4 years that I was in the AG's office, I made sure if that was our budget, we stay within budget, and we're lawyers. We can figure ways out. You got the brightest and the best people that are working for the taxpayers, which is the Attorney General's office. Use their minds in order to help the taxpayer, help the voter, help the consumer. Don't help ourselves as government officials.
All right, Doug, got about a minute left. I want you to look into that camera and tell the people of Guam why they should vote for you.
Hafide. My name is Doug Moylan. I was the first elected Attorney General on Guam. I served you 16 years ago. I am asking for your vote. I believe that I have the most to offer you as citizens of our island. I believe that I can make a big impact on stopping the crime out there. I am the toughest AG on crime. My reputation is being tough, but as you being my client, I will guarantee you that every day that I am in office, I will work to make sure that you are protected in your homes and actually receive the benefits of a chief law enforcement officer.
All right, Attorney Douglas Moylan, the former Attorney General, running for that office once again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Nestor.
We're going to take a short break and be back right after this.